Welcome back to Qtronics, and today something actually different. Yes, I always say that line, something different, but today it actually is something different. I have spent quite a few hours and I want to say over a week on this project, and obviously you've seen the thumbnail, so you know what's happening. I have basically created a cart version of Pokémon Yellow Legacy. So let's get into what's actually happened. So today we're flashing Pokémon Yellow Legacy onto a custom built open source flashcart. Now originally the flashcart inside of this is designed by Silly Hat Day, and the whole point of this project is about putting a modern version of a Pokemon game onto a cart to make it feel like an original, and obviously to make it work inside of a Game Boy Color. But obviously, as you can tell, I didn't stop there. I then went on to create the box art to a cartridge, and as you can see here, the cartridge goes all the way through. Obviously, we're using the fat Pikachu from the original Pokemon TCG game. Obviously, it just looks phenomenal. And then we move over to the cart, and as you can see, it's in a shell, and it looks like Pokemon Yellow. And another amazing part of this build is the fact that this here has a holographic back. So you can see here as I shine it over the light, you can see the sparkles, and this is for me so reminiscent of the Pokemon card game at the start to bring it all in. And yes, Pokemon Yellow Legacy in cart form is what I've got for you today. And to me, this isn't just about playing a game, it's about making something that looks and feels like it could have existed back in the day with just a few modern touches. So let's talk about why this is such a special game anyway. Let's get into it. Now, if you're a kid in the late 90s, there's a good chance Pokemon Yellow was part of your gaming DNA. Released in 1999, Yellow was more than a colorized remix of Pokemon Red and Blue. It was the first big revision of Pokemon in the West. Pikachu followed you around, just like the anime. You could get all 3 starters without trading. Jesse and James showed up, and for the first time, the Game Boy Color actually felt like it was being put to proper use. Yellow wasn't just another version. It was the version a lot of us wanted. For me, it had the best box art, and it was part of that golden era when Pokemon was on everything, from your screen to your lunchbox. So, fast forwarding to 2024, and the same game has been lovingly rebuilt as Pokemon Yellow Legacy, a fan project by Patrick Smith, also known as TheSmithPlays. It's based on the full disassembly of the original Pokemon Yellow, and is designed to feel exactly like the game you remember, just tightened up with 2 decades of hindsight. This isn't some wild ROM hack. The goal here isn't to overhaul the game, it's to refine it. Core mechanics are still Gen 1 weird, like crits being based on speed, broken wrap mechanics, and sleep being busted. But every Pokemon now has a proper role, so you can build a team with your favourites and not get punished for it. Trainer battles have been rebalanced, bosses hit harder and smarter, so sweeping with one overleveled Mon won't cut it anymore. All 151 Pokemon are also available in a single playthrough, no trading, no hacks. There's even a bit of post-game content. It's the version of Yellow that feels like what the devs may have released in an alternate timeline, one where the Game Boy never went away and the anime-inspired charm got the full treatment it deserved. So here's what we've got. Pokemon Yellow Legacy running on a real open source flashcart with a custom cartridge shell 3D printed to fit like the real deal, and a holographic base that shimmers in the light, and it all slides perfectly into a standard cassette tape like it's always belonged there. For me, and probably for a lot of you, this is more than just a playable ROM. It's a physical, playable tribute to one of the best cartridges of our childhood. And now it's time to build. So let's get this thing soldered. So then, let's head over to the bench and I'll talk you through all the bits and bobs we actually need. Obviously, I've already shown the repo and I'll link that in the description so you can go and have a look for the exact models and things. I will say what they are here now, but obviously things get a bit mental with numbers and stuff. So anyway, head over to the mat. Right then, so the 3 big things we need here, obviously, are a new shell the board, and yes, a new sticker for that shell. Now, obviously, this sticker's been custom made. I will go over where these are from in a second, just after I get through the parts, and I'll have a little talk about these stickers because I've got a few other interesting projects coming up based on these alone. Right then, so shell, AliExpress special. Just get one from AliExpress, nice and easy. Obviously, the cart, as mentioned already. I've used JLC PCB because they're pretty cheap for like single runs and stuff. So yeah, there we go. Obviously, as mentioned before, they're by Silly Hat Day. So obviously this is one of their carts. So after that, we then need, now you can put 2 ROM chips on here if you want to. I'm not going to bother because there's no need. So we need a ROM chip which look a bit like this. Now these are, if I remember the name right, they're AM29F016. So these are 2 megabyte ROM chips. So in theory, you could put one of these here and one of these here, and that would get you 4 megabytes. Now, obviously, you could then, in theory, buy 2 4 megabyte versions, and then you would get an 8 megabyte cartridge. There's only one game, I believe, that uses 8 megabytes, and it's some Japanese train game. So unless you're into that, you probably don't need 8 megabytes. 4 megabytes will be enough. But in most cases, 2 megabytes is enough. Hence why I'm only sticking 1 on here. Now, obviously, as you can see, the board did say 4 or 8, but based on how the Gameboy works, if your game never asks for 4 megabytes, it'll never try and use it. So that's it basically. So yep, so there we have the RAM chips. Sorry, there we have the ROM chips. Now we have the RAM chips, and these sit in this place here. Now this is probably the most expensive part of the build. They're about £12, which I believe is about $14 or $15. That's after our tax. I have seen them on DigiKey for about $10, but I don't know how tax works in every state and stuff. So these things are expensive. Now you can pick these up on AliExpress for 5 for £10 or 5 for $10. Again, I don't know what's going on with taxes and imports anymore in America, but the problem you have with that is they're not always working. Somewhat, you might get a pack where all 5 work, but you might get a pack where none work. So then you could be spending $10 to get one working one, or you could just buy a $10 working one. It's one of those. I've opted to buy some official ones here, and they are, the part number is FM18W08. That's what these are. I will show you the cheap ones as well. So I did buy some to test out in the future. And as you can see, there they are, and they're Ramtron. So who knows if they'll work or not. At some point, I will find out. So yeah, so we've got the 2 main components there. Now, we need an MCB5. Now that's going to come from an original game. Now the easiest way to find MCB5 chips is to basically buy old Game Boy Color games. They're pretty much all MCB5. So if we pop this open, I've already undone the screw, you will see this chip here. That is an MCB5 chip. So basically all we'll do is desolder that from the board and plonk it in place there in the same orientation, the bottom left being where the chip mark is, which is what you can see there. And that's that, and that's basically the only thing we need from an original cartridge. Then we will also need some 10K resistors from AliExpress, nice and simple, 603 size. We also need 100 nanofarad or 0.1 microfarad, I believe that is, UF. We need 5 of those, and then we also need these. Now this is, let me get the name for you because they're confusing. This is the SN74LVC1G332, and then that sits in that place there on U6. And then we also need, which is why I'm getting confused here, because they're very similar sounding, the SN74LVC1G139, which sits right there. And that's basically all the chips we need. Everything else, like I said, is capacitors or resistors. The only thing we'll need to do when we do this board is here where we have the 4 megabytes and the 8 megabyte, we'll be bridging the 4 megabyte to tell the chip basically you'd only have 4 megabytes top. You'd only have 4 megabytes top, which basically talks to this chip. But again, as we're only referencing 2 megabytes anyway, you could technically solder either one and it wouldn't matter. Because if you solder the top one, it'll just ask for the first 4 megabytes of ROM coming from here. But again, we're not going to put a 4 megabyte chip on here, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's all of the board parts we need. Now, once we've made the board, you're going to need some way of getting data onto it. And I'm going to be using a Benven, which is one of these things here. This is a Joey Jr. version 2, I believe it is. There's GB Cart, and there's one more. Just bear with me and I'll get the name of it for you. So there's the Benven, which is here. There's the GB Operator by Epilogue. There's the GBX Flash Cart RW, and there's also the GB Flash. Any of those will do the job. I recommend the GB Flash or the Benven personally. The GBX Cart RW is good as well, and they're quite cheap, but I'm going with the Benven, like I said, that's for me. Right, and then the last thing we're going to need for my build is the cartridge sticker. Now, as you'll see, this is a lovely cartridge sticker, and I was searching around Etsy to try and find someone, and I came across a guy who's based in Scotland, and he's called SlothGaming, Andrew over at SlothGaming. Now, I spoke to him and I made an order of about £100 worth of stuff that I wanted. So yeah, lots of projects coming up, and I told him basically I'm probably going to use them on a YouTube video. Is that okay? Because I don't like using people's work if they're not happy with it. And he said, yeah, that was fine. So he then did send over a couple of things that are basically part of a future giveaway. So we have obviously some more cart stickers. And then what he has created is a set of custom original Gameboy stickers, as you can see here. Now, I love these ones. They just look really fresh compared to the original. Obviously, you can see the yellow one here normally versus this one, and I quite like the full zoomed out with the Pokemon fully in shot. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate every single one of these games, color coded with a proper cart, get one of these stickers on, and I'll give that away. And as you can imagine, there's 7 there. I told you those RAM chip. I told you the RAM chips cost £10 each. So we're talking £70 worth of RAM chips. I'm going to make a full set and I'll give it away on this channel. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. Obviously, I'll make that set anyway and I'll show it off. But I do want to give it away. As I said, these set of stickers here were given to me by Andrew over at SlothGaming. So go and check him out. There'll be a link in my description for him. Also, one of the cool things he did have on there, which is going to also be part of a future build, is this Pokemon Pinball Generations. Now, if you don't know, basically someone took the Pokemon Pinball ROM and changed it up and added a few more courses in there. Really good stuff. Now, you can make a flash cart that has Rumble, so I'll be doing that. So look out for that coming soon. And finally, one of the cool things that I like that SlothGaming do are these. Now, you might be thinking, what are those? These are based on the original wraps for batteries. So basically, this peels off and will wrap around this isn't a rechargeable one, but basically it would wrap around a battery. Now, back in the day, Duracell, I believe, did make some Pokemon themed batteries. So this is just reminiscent of them, and part of my as part of my series where I'm going to go through making some Game Boys, we're basically going to create some rechargeable batteries that have these stickers on. Yeah, look out for that. And again, as I mentioned, SlothGaming in Scotland. If you're after any stickers or you want to do this project and recreate a Yellow Legacy version on your own, go and look on Etsy and buy some of these stickers. Obviously, we have the Crystal Legacy here as well. And we can't forget Emerald Legacy. So yes, as you guessed, on the channel, those games will be featured shortly. Anyway, guys, there we go. That's pretty much everything we need to make this. Obviously we need solder and soldering irons and all the other jazz, but that's all the parts we need. And obviously then we'll end up with this amazing Pokemon Yellow Legacy version in a proper case that can be used in the Analog Pocket, in an original Game Boy, whatever you want to do with it. But I just love the fact that we can have a physical copy of this. Obviously, as I mentioned already, I'm at the Elite floor and I've really enjoyed this game. And having a physical copy is brilliant. And like I said, this physical copy is for a friend. It's his birthday soon. So hopefully he's going to really like that. And obviously, as you can tell, I'm making him an Emerald Legacy and a Crystal Legacy version to go with it. So as I said, look out for those videos coming up in the future. But anyway, that's everything we need parts-wise. So I'm going to cut away from here, get everything out ready soldering iron-wise, and then we'll start to solder things onto this board, and then we can look at flashing it. Right, thank you guys, I'll catch you in a second. Right then guys, over to the soldering. Now obviously I know in the last part I explained what parts we need and what bits and bobs and stuff, but I just want you to appreciate how small some of these resistors and capacitors are. So if we go over to the other camera, you'll see this is my tweezers here. Now this is the FRAM chip here. This is the ROM. These are the two 74 LVCs. And then these here, these two little tiny things are the two resistors. And that's a cap. Now, obviously I explained we need 5 capacitors. So you're thinking, where are they coming from? Obviously, I don't know if I mentioned already, but basically the capacitors will be coming off this board. I might as well reuse the ones that are already on this board, seeing as we'll be taking that MVC5 anyway. So, future Stephen here, ignore what past Stephen said there about the capacitors on the original Game Boy cartridge. Unfortunately, you can't use them on this one. The cart that is made by Silly Hat Day requires, I think it's 5 100 nanofarad capacitors. The ones on the Game Boy are a mixture of 13 nanofarad and 29 picofarad. So obviously, just not going to work. So make sure you put the right ones on. I do later on in the video put the right ones on and mention it. So just if you're following this and you're doing what I'm doing, make sure you use the right capacitors. Anyway, I'll pass you back on to Pasty. See you later. So first things first, I'm going to zoom back out in a second, and then we need to basically get some solder onto all the points on here. Now, one thing I do regret doing when buying this is not buying the stencil, as I've mentioned already, but it is what it is. So let's get some solder on this, and then we'll look at using my heat pad. I'm going to transferring over. I won't get the scope out just so you can kind of see it a little bit. Obviously, I will go over the chip legs when I'm done with a soldering iron, so I'll get the scope out then. Anyway, let's get on to getting some solder on this board then. Right, let me just zoom out, guys, and we'll go from there. Right then, I'm going to stick my extract fan on ready, so apologies for any extra fan noise. So first thing is, I'm going to put some flux on the board, because although these are fresh pads, I do like to get flux on everything if I can. So we're just going to flux all the areas. Now, as I already mentioned, I'm only putting 2 megabytes on this. Technically, it will take 4 megabytes, but I just don't need it for a Pokemon game, so we're not going to bother tinning the top one because we don't need it. We only need the bottom. So I'm literally just going to apply some solder to the iron and then just spread it all over the board where we need it. Ideally, we don't want to get any solder on the fingers down the bottom here. So let's try and keep away from there. And there shouldn't really be any reason why we need to hit there, so that should be fine. Now there's 2 pads up here that are for 8 meg and 4 meg. Now since we're keeping this to 2 meg, we want to keep the 4 meg pad bridged. Obviously at the moment the 8 pad's bridged, so we're just going to unbridge that and we're going to try and bridge that 4 megabyte pad, because again, we're doing the 2 megabytes, so the 4 megabyte is consistent of 2 megs, of two megs. Right, that's all done. Everything's now got some solder on it, so we can put the iron away for now, and we can move over to the hot plate. Now, firstly, I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up. So we move to the hot plate's going to get hot and burn all the flux off, so you might as well get the flux off it first, put some back on, nice and easy. Right, should be nice and in focus there. So let's go through things. So we have 1 resistor down here. Now these are 10k resistors. So I'm going to drop that roughly in place. We have a cap down here as well, so I'm going to put the 1 cap that I am not taking off the board down here ready. And then R1 is up here, so I'll put the other resistor in place there. Now these will get pulled into place as the heat comes on. We then have the, trying to think which one it is, I think it's the 139, is it the 139? Oh, the one, it's U6 basically, I can't remember which one it is, they're both very similarly named. That's in place, and then we have the other chip now. Now this one does have a dot on it, and I believe the dot goes to the upper right corner. Let me just double check that, but I believe that is the case. So yes, the dot goes in the upper left hand corner. I will show these orientations on the scope when we touch things up. Again, I'm not sure how much that chip is actually needed in this orientation, because we're only using 2 megs of RAM. I don't think it's actually needed that much. Right, and then when it comes to the other chips, everything is the top left apart from the MBC, which has a dot at the bottom left. So you'll see that when I take it off, but let's get everything else lined up and then we can turn the heat on. Now, because we're doing this while it's cold, it means I can actually hold the board. Some of the other board heaters have little clips, and I wish I'd have got one of those now. So again, we can nudge these into place a bit better once the heat's on. So yeah, right, we'll get the ROM chip on. And I apologise, the ROM chip is top right. It's the little dot on it. That looks right to me. Right then, so we're going to turn the heat pad on now and get it warmed up. So this is set to 220, I believe. So I will confirm that, yes, 220. So again, as this warms up, you'll naturally start to pull things into place. And then I'm going to put a little bit of flux on once everything's in place, and we'll go from there. And as this warms up, you'll see a bit of smoke come off it, and then we'll be able to put things into place properly. It's starting to get up to heat. I believe leaded solder melts at 180, so 220 is fine. The old Gameboy boards would have been leaded as well, so this is more than enough. As we get a bit closer, chips will start to pull into place. I'm hoping you can see them on here. I don't want to scroll in too much just because we're against about 170 now. Solder starting to melt now, it is. So I'm just touching the pins, making sure they're all lining up. Right, and now we should be able to pull this MCB5 off here, which we can. And we can just drop it into place. Like so. Apologies for that. Did knock it down. And then if we just grab the last remaining caps, we should be good. I'm just going to put a bit of a flux on the board now, just to tighten up these. Right then, I believe that's all good. They all look soldered now. I'm going to turn the heat off, and as it cools down we can get the board off. So heat's going off now, and we'll start taking the boards off. I'm going to zoom out while I do this. Now, as the board's hot, if we drop the board now, all the parts will come off, so we have to be very careful with this. Right then, I will get the scope, I'll turn this camera off, get the scope, and we can have a look, make sure it's all good. Right, I'll catch you in a second. Right then guys, so we're back, we're under the scope now, so we're just going to check all of our points, make sure everything's soldered properly. So I'm just going to touch these points up, so I'm not quite happy with them. So if we heat the iron up, get some flux on it, and we'll just go over the pins and we should be fine. Shouldn't need any more solder because we should be good. So the iron's on. Although these are wonky, I don't believe anything is touching any of the pins next to them. Let's just do a poke test, make sure they're actually connected. If not, we'll get it on the plate again and just warm it back up and it should just nudge into place. Well, they all look connected, which is good. So let's have a look at the rest of the board. This chip all looks good. I will poke it in a minute, make sure they look fine. The MCB looks good. That looks good. The bridge is fine. They look fine, that looks good. Right, let's just get the tweezers out, give everything a poke and make sure everything's soldered in. And then I think we're good. They all look good then. So the only thing is, I'm still a little bit unhappy with this. This just looks so messy to me. I really don't like it. I'm going to get back on the heat thing, I think. I'm going to just touch it up now, get it on the heat thing, and then we'll go from there, because I'm just not happy with that. It just looks messy. And I don't think it's bridged, but like I said, I'm going to get back under the heat pad and put some flux on it. So I'm going to try and do that on here for you guys, so you can actually see it flop in. So you'll lose my face a little bit, but hopefully you'll get the heat pad instead. So swings and roundabouts here. So we're at about 160 now, so we're getting close to getting up to heat, and I'm hoping that just pulls itself into place nicely. You can see that cap there is starting to, there we go, the solder's starting to pick up now. So we should be able to just touch this now, theoretically, and it should go into place. There we go, and hopefully the bottom of the board's still good. That's much better now. And then everything else should hopefully have stayed in line. Cool, right, I can turn the heat back off that now and let that settle in. And then I'm going to get off the board, get it cleaned up, and we can then test it. Woohoo, I have returned. Let me turn this camera off. I needed this for the, just to add to the scope a little bit. Right then, so the board should be all ready now and done. I'm going to get it cleaned up and we can give it a test. So I'll catch you shortly. See you in a sec. So as you can tell, guys, between the last scene and this scene, there's been a lot of time passed. I've changed clothes, you know. My voice is now raspy because I'm a bit ill. But basically, I'm going to let you in on a secret. If you've got this far into the video, which you have because you're hearing me, the original intro you heard at the start of this video actually was something that has been recorded the second time. Basically, originally it was just going to be a cart. I was just going to make the cart and show that off. And then I got towards the end of the project and I thought, you know what? This needs to be special. I need something a bit more pizzazzed. So basically, in a minute, I'll show you through the files that I've done and what I did on the 3D printer. But basically, we have this, which, if you can see on the camera there, has like basically a shiny bottom, for lack of better words. I'll explain how I did that in a minute. But also, we have this. Now, if you know what this is, you'll know what's coming shortly. But I'm not going to ruin it straight away. I just want to show you that basically, the reason time has passed is because I want to make this even more special, which sounds a bit mental, but it is. Anyway then, so where we left off is basically the cart is now ready. So we need to get it into a shell, get the shell closed, and then we need to get over to the computer and start looking at flashing it. So here we have my Benven Joey Jr. 2, or whatever it's called. So if we head over to the computer before I plug this in, you'll see what happens. So I'm using Flash GBX. I've flashed the firmware onto my Benven to use this just because I prefer this when it comes to flashing these cartridges. The Benven probably can do it. I prefer this UI, to be honest. So if we plug the if we disconnect first, and then I'm going to plug the cart in. If we then connect, press on Gameboy, and if we analyze the flash cart, we should get it coming up with this. So it's saying it's a 2 MB ROM. It doesn't know what the save type is yet. We've not set it. The mapper type is manual. Again, we're doing MBC5, so we know that. But here's the key part. DIY cart with an AM29F016 and audio. at audio, I mean nothing, I just pulls the audio port. But basically, although we're doing the City Hat Days one, because we've only banged the 2 megabyte on there, we don't need to use their flashing software. We just use the generic one for the AM29F016. So if that comes up, that is perfect. The cart is ready to go. Now, as I did mention at the end of the last clip, I did have to go and change the caps. The caps that were on the original Game Boy are like 29 picofarad and 13 microfarads. This needed 100 microfarads, so as you can imagine, this didn't work. So ignore the part where I mentioned that. I will put obviously if you've seen this, I have put a bit in the video that says, obviously use the 100 nanofarads or microfarads or whatever the bloody thing was. But anyway, I've put the measurement in there. I think it's UF, it's 100 UF, whatever that. It's 100 NF, which is nanofarads. That's the one. Sorry, guys. So yeah, go put them in there. Anyway, obviously it's all in the description, so you'll see it all. Anyway, back over to the cart. Now, I have my ROMs ready because who doesn't? If you need help with patching, let me know and I'll make a second video showing you how to do that. But basically, we need to select the save type. We're using a 256 SRAM. Technically, we're using FRAM, but it's the same thing. And the mapper type will be MBC5. Now, if we go to write ROM, obviously you'll see all of my little ROMs here, and the fact that Crystal Legacy is there gives you a hint of the future. And just because we're here, if we go back over to the camera, you'll see this bad boy here. So look out for future videos on that. So if we head over to Yellow Legacy, which I've already pre-flashed, if we open this up, it will then instantly try and write the ROM because we clicked write ROM. So let's see what happens. This does take a little bit of time. Obviously, we'll skip through this as you're watching because it takes a few minutes. As you can imagine, we're trying to fill the ROM completely up. If you were to reflash it again the second time, it actually doesn't take as long because it goes, well, you've already, that map is the same, that map is the same, that map is the same. It's very quick. Once we've done this, we will then check the FRAM as well because obviously that's quite important. If the ROM works but the save doesn't, we're basically pointless. So once this is on there, I will show you how to do the FRAM check, and then we can bang this in a Game Boy or a Pocket I'm going to have to use. I might use both just to show it off, and we'll see. And what we can do once this is done is we can disconnect, reconnect, analyze the cart, and it should tell us it's some kind of Pokemon Yellow version. Because again, it's very, Pokemon Legacy Yellow is very close. So it's just doing its verifying. This is the worst part now if it fails, but I think we're probably good. ROM was verified successfully. Right, if we do our run stress test on the right save data, that's fine. That's fine. If we let this go through now, hopefully it'll tell us it's either working or it's not working. Sometimes if it doesn't work immediately, it's just because obviously I've not screwed the cartridge down, so I'll plug it back in and plug it back out. But that looks like it's working to me. All tests completed, so the save's fine. If we then do disconnect, reconnect, if we click Game Boy and then analyze the flash cart, we should see it come up and tell you that it's same cart. And as you can see over here, it says Pokemon Yellow. So if we disconnect again and then reconnect and click Game Boy, it all pops up basically saying it's Pokemon Yellow. Everything's good. This boot logo here, this will get corrupted if it's not working. So that's it now. We're done with the flashing. The flashing is there. There is one thing I am going to do, and I am going to put my save data on Pokemon Yellow just so we can see it loading up. So if I do that, you'll see that actually the save data is working on it. Right then, we'll disconnect from here and we'll head back over to the little camera, well, the top-down camera, and I'll put the sticker on. Right then, if we head back over to the camera at the bottom, you'll see that we now have the cart. I'm not going to screw it down yet because we're messing about with it. So we're going to leave it in and we're going to do what I think is the hardest part for me is I can never get a sticker to line straight because technically you want to get it just off center. If I get you an official Pokemon Yellow, you'll see what I mean. Again, this is a hint what's to come. You can see that actually the sticker's not perfectly touching any edge. It's almost around the it's actually like a little gap around it. So I'm going to try and replicate that. But I'm telling you now, it's not going to work. So I'm going to pop that front cover off a second, and then we're going to peel this sticker, which makes sure we're in focus here. We are, we're good, we're focused. I'm going to peel this sticker. and we're going to get it on. Let me know how the focusing's been, guys. I've been trying to get away from autofocus because with my hands being so close to things, it kind of picks up my hands. So we're gonna do the best we can here with this. And hope that that is good enough, because it's not quite as central as I'd like it. But you know what? It's made by me. Why would it be perfectly shaped if it was a Q-Tronics thing? It wouldn't. Right, so there we go. Obviously then we can close the shell. I'm going to get the screwdriver out and we'll seal this up. And there we go. We'll have made our very own flash cart, which again is pretty amazing, I think. Again, I have explained that the biggest hate about this is the fact that we have to destroy another game to make it. I am looking at ways to be able to use a CLPD. I'm actually speaking to the guy who made this cart, and he's mentioning that he's looking at a new CLPD cart going forward, so that'll be quite interesting. But to be honest, I really want to learn to do it myself. I've recently picked up all the parts to do this, so actually I'm going to be looking at doing that soon. So let me know on the channel if you'd actually like me to run through what I've done, if I actually get it working, to run through the code. I've actually ordered myself some breakout boards that I'll need to solder, but as you can see, this goes into the Game Boy, and this lets me get all the pins out for the Game Boy so I can hook into it and put it into a breadboard. So if I do that, let me know. Is that something you guys would like to see what happens and how I've got my breadboard set up? Let me know. Right then, let's screw this in. We want to make sure this is flat because it'll scratch my analog pocket else and then I'll cry like a little baby. So it's flat across there. The game is officially done. That's it, we're done. We're done with all the soldering now. So then if we actually head over to the Game Boy Color, it had to be a Game Boy Color to start with, didn't it? We couldn't use anything else, nothing modern. Has to be the Game Boy Color. Let's turn this on and take a look. Hopefully that all looks in clear for you. I mean, it looks clear on my screen, so I'm hoping you can hear that noise. Let's get the mic a little bit closer for you. I love just the classic look of the Game Boy Color. Hopefully you can still hear that a little bit. It went too loud. I'll get bent into some post-processing, so it shouldn't be. And there you go, Yellow Legacy. Yellow Legacy. My accent slipped out there. If we go to continue, as you can see, this is my save. And there we are at the elite floor, ready to take it on. And I'm just going to have a look at my team, because why not? I've got to show off a little bit. There we go, we've got Alakazam, Golem, Gyarados, Arcanine, Gengar, obviously Pikachu, which in this game gets a little bit let down. But there we go, all working. Right, let's see on another console to make sure it works, because I mentioned at the start of this video that actually the reason we can't just buy a pre-made cart, a bit like this one here, is this is actually using a CLPD. That's using an Altera chip. So technically to create this, we wouldn't have to destroy a normal Game Boy game. This would actually be a CLPD one. Problem is, this mapper doesn't work properly for Pokemon Yellow. So if I stick this into the pocket in a minute, you'll see there's a glitch on it and stuff. Originally I tried this, I didn't have to make my own, but obviously we had issues. So I'll get this back on. If I pop it in the Game Boy Color, you'll see it probably works fine. But when it comes to anything else, that's when we start getting issues. So I'm just going to make sure this is back on this screen properly. Right, so if we turn the Game Boy Color on, you'll see obviously this all loads up normally. I'll skip through it. I believe this has got Yellow Legacy already on it. Now if we, oh well, first of all the save data is corrupt, so that's fine. So it doesn't support saves properly. So if we just go through this a second, you'll actually see. So when this Professor Oak loads in, it's actually a little bit. Let me see if I can get a good zoom in for you. I don't know if you can see, but right there on his face, there's a corruption. Now, this is the problem with certain CLPDs. Obviously, these are bought from AliExpress, but this particular one, it just doesn't support the console properly. I'll get it on the Pocket, and you'll see that corruption a little bit better. Now, bear in mind, obviously, the Analog Pocket's an FPGA console, so it's kind of designed to replicate the Game Boy. So it's never going to be perfect, but it'll get as close as possible. That's as in focus as I can get it. So file data is corrupt, as I mentioned. That's my save, by the way. So obviously I'd be very, very sad if that was my actual save. Play as a boy, and now if you can see, Professor Oak's face is absolutely mashed to crap. So yeah, it just doesn't work for some reason in consoles properly. I don't know if it's just the way it's mapping. Now I've tried rendering that particular. Now I've tried flashing that one in loads of different ways, loads of different things, and it still doesn't give me the thing. If you did NBC1 games, so Japanese Pokemon Blue and Red, you'd probably get away with it, but Yellow just seems to absolutely mess up on there. Right then guys, if we head over to the table, we have my Game Boy Advance SP that I had as a child. So if we play our flash cartridge in there, we'll see what happens. Let's make the screen a bit bigger. And as you can see, everything's absolutely fine. So the cartridge we made not only plays in the Pocket, the Game Boy Color, it also plays in a Game Boy Advance SP. There you go, we're at the Elite Four, job's a good one. And just to prove that the other cart doesn't work even in a Game Boy Advance SP, even though you've seen it in a Game Boy Color, I'll bang it in here as well, just for that final test. I mean, it does run, so clearly it's doing something. It's just obviously not mapping that MBC properly. Ooh, so weirdly, it's working in the SP. So if we got a new game here, wow, there's no glitch on Professor Oak's face there. If I bring it a bit closer for you, there's zero glitch on his face. So clearly, this MCB, however it's been registered in here, has been created to work on Game Boy Advance hardware. So again, probably if I forced the Analog Pocket to run it as a Game Boy Advance game, it'd probably work fine, but I don't want to do that. I want to be able to play a Game Boy Color game on a Game Boy Color, because why not? So yeah, there you go. Anyway, that's the reason we don't use those carts. So overall, our beautiful new Yellow Legacy cartridge works absolutely fine. There's no issues with it whatsoever. It's beautiful, as I must say, because I made it. Right, I'm going to take you back over to the computer, and then I'll show you what's going on with the printer and how this works. Right, I'll catch you in a second. Right guys, welcome back then. So we're over to the computer now, and you can see we're at printables. So this is the exact print I used to create the thing that holds the cartridge. As you can see, it's by this guy. I will link this in the description, because at the end of the day, anything that I've done that is open source, I will link so anyone else can come and replicate this project. Now you will see that actually I remixed this for Pokemon Crystal, so there will be a video coming out for that soon, so look out for that. But there you go, I'll add that to the sources at the bottom of the description so you can see it all. Now, when it comes to the actual cartridge, you know, when it comes to this here, this is what I did. I basically replicated someone else's cassette thing that's open sourced. Again, link it all. So this is the base Pokemon one. So obviously you want to do just normal Pokemon Yellow, you can go here, print this, cut it out, job's a good one. I then reached out to SlothGaming to get his background, which obviously then matches the cartridge. I then did some customization, and boom, this is what it turns out. And yes, as you can see, there's an Emerald Legacy, There's also a Pokemon Crystal version and a Pokemon Pinball generation. So look out for the videos coming soon. This one here is amazing. It uses the official Pokemon Pinball cart and it has a replica board for it and it'll look absolutely fantastic. So look out for that video. Anyway, as you can see, we just basically print this out, and then once you've printed it out, you get one of these. This is printed on photo paper, so it's nice. We'll need to cut this out with some scissors. I'm not going to show you that because my cutting's appalling, and two, I'm pretty sure you can use a pair of scissors. Right, and then when it comes to getting that pattern on the bottom of here, obviously you can see on the mat here now, there's this massive sparkly thing going on, and that is what essentially puts the pattern onto your prints. Now, if I get you a different one, different things do different prints. As you can see, this is a crystal and this is for emerald, and you can see the base plates are different for those. So basically it's the plate of the 3D printer that does this. So if I head over to AliExpress, this is what I bought. I bought every single one of these. So this obviously is reversible. You can see the other side, it's different now. This here is my fingerprint, you can see. So we need to clean this before we use it. But basically, different ones will give you different patterns. Now, I did try this pattern at first because it reminded me of old school Pokemon cards, but as you can see, it's not the greatest effect. I mean, it looks really good on the camera actually, which is annoying, but in person it's not as good. So then I thought, you know what? This kind of pattern is very reminiscent of the 90s and that kind of holographic thing. So obviously I did this. So that's all we did. So this goes onto the printer and we click print. I will show you a quick video of it printing just because everyone likes to see that. So I'll cut away to the printer starting and we'll go from there. Right, I'll catch you in a minute, guys. Hopefully this has been helpful. So there you go then, guys. Obviously it's a very noisy printer. It's my Mark 4K S, is it? My Mark 4K S. Annoyingly, my Core 1 is still in the mail because I bought the advanced the advanced filtration system, so obviously it's not been delivered yet, but as you can see it's printing there. If I get a little bit closer for you, I've got to manually zoom like I said. You can see the pattern hopefully. There you go, and yeah, there's the printer. So once that's done, we'll take it off and we'll go from there. Right, I'll catch you in a second, guys. Right then, guys, the 3D print is done. Obviously, I've put the build plate over here because I had to take my camera off, take it over there and come back. But here it is. As you can see, it's still attached. So let's do the best part of any print, and that's when we bend the build plate and hear it pop. Watch this not pop now. But anyway, let's go for it. Oh, it didn't pop. Anyway, it's done. So let's flip this over and we'll see if we can see those sparkles. It's like one of those Pokemon card reveals, and at the last bit, you know, are we going to get a shiny or not? Let's flip it over. I haven't seen the bottom of this yet either. Oh, and there it is. Look at that. I don't know how it works. And at this point, I'm too scared to ask because that is absolutely beautiful. There we go, guys. That's it. The print is done. Simple as that. This is just some Elegoo Rapid PLA. But yeah, there you go, and that looks magnificent. So I'll end this, get us over to that final bit. I'll do the outro and I'll show you me putting it all together for our final bit. Right, I'll catch you in a second. Right then, guys, welcome back, the final part of the video. Thank you very much for joining me on this, what I'm calling an epic adventure. When I first started this, I only ever planned to create the cart, so the fact that I then moved on to creating a full cassette-based system is mental. Like I said, the cart looked magnificent, but it just felt like it needed more to be finished. So anyway, let's put it all together and then I'll just ring us out and explain some of the pros and cons of this way. But to be honest, I think the pros well outweigh the cons. So cart into the holder, and obviously if we turn it over, it's all shiny. And then this is just a blank cassette tape. Normally you have to cut these two pins out. I can't remember where I got these from, but the pins were pre-cut, so it's perfect for what we need. So we open up the cassette. This part then literally just slides into the top. Now normally I bang the cart in against it just to finish it off. and there we go. It slots nicely into place. We close it, and then boom, there we go. A Pokemon cassette game. It honestly, I hope you see it as good as I'm seeing it here. Right, let me zoom in a little bit more. I hope it comes across on camera as good as it does in real life. It just looks absolutely phenomenal. Even down to the back, just to the little barcode and stuff. It just really sets it off. And I think for me, the part that I like the most is the fact the picture on the box matches the cart artwork. I think for me that's a big thing. The only thing I wish I could do is have these colours matching. So with that, it brings us on to the pros and cons. I'm going to go through the cons first, because I think there's only two. Firstly, is matching up the cart colours. Even this cart, it's a cheap AliExpress one. It never really matches the official Pokemon Yellow. You can see this is a little bit more shine. If I pop this out, you'll see this cart's a little bit more shiny. It's slightly darker. It just feels better in the hand. The Nintendo logo and stuff's obviously better. But for a repo cart shell, that is absolutely fantastic. For a repo cart shell, that's absolutely fantastic. It does the job. The other con is the fact that we had to destroy a game to make this. Now, in theory, we can put that game back together. I know the measurements of the caps that need to happen. I know where the MCB5 chip is because it's there in this Pokemon game. I know where the MBC5 chip is because it's there in this Pokemon game. So in theory, we can put it all back and have a working other game cart, which again, it was Bob the Builder, I think it was. Absolute pile of shit, so who cares? But it is a con, and we did have to destroy a game for it. Now, on to the pros. Firstly, this game will work in a Game Boy Color, a Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP, a Pocket. Anything that the Game Boy cart would work in, this will work in. There's no issues with it there. The second pro, it's fully rewritable. You saw me flash it. We could have flashed any game on there. Even though this says Yellow Legacy on it now, we could in theory put Pokemon Red on there, Pokemon Blue. Any NBC any MBC5 Pokemon game could go on here. Now, we can't go for Gold, Silver or Crystal because although the RAM would work, the real-time clock wouldn't. So theoretically, you could flash it on here. It just should have no clock function. So technically, Crystal Legacy could go on this cartridge and it would work. But I have got a RTC cartridge coming again by Silly Hat Days. I'll show you how they work. And obviously, I'll pump that video out and we'll see the case that comes of it with a little preview there of what you're going to get with that one. But as you can see, the pros, that works. And then obviously, when it comes to the 3D print, just look at that. It looks absolutely phenomenal. Printing this out on photo paper just looks great. The cart it just looks like something you can actually buy off the shelf. I think it does anyway. Maybe I'm just being a bit, overhyped by it because I made it myself. And this is one of the first big projects I've done where I've had to have a little bit of input in there and actually make things and figure things out. I had to use Blender for the Pokemon Crystal card. So it's all a bit up in the air. Obviously the artwork's not mine because I'm not an artist. But I've done so much with this compared to what I normally do. Normally I just install the mods and do a little bit of jiggery pokery. This one I felt like it was so active. It's taken me a whole week to get everything right, especially with the other carts. The amount of times I had to print this was a joke. I had to redo all the ink in my printer. It was mental. So overall, I think it looks phenomenal. And I think there's only one way to end this video, and that is to have the Pokemon game play us out. Now, I am going to bring in the Game Boy Color, because why wouldn't I? I'm going to see if I can get a better light on it for you this time, guys, as well. Right then, guys, I'm going to take my mic off now to let this play out. I'm going to put the mic by the sound so you can hear this. And I'm going to let Pokemon Yellow's intro on the Game Boy play us out. Thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully you've learned something new here and you've seen how to make a cart. And hopefully maybe it'll inspire you to go out there and do something crazy like this. But anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to kick this off. So I will catch you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe as it really helps the channel to grow. And I'm on the road to 2,000 subscribers now. So thank you very much. I'll catch you later. Anyway, here's Pokemon Yellow Legacy.